I'm John Hillcoat.
I'm Nick Cave.
We're here in London doing the post-production of our film, The Proposition. I directed the film.
I wrote the screenplay and I'm doing the music to it.
When I was in film school, I got very interested in genre and especially exploring and stretching genre into another context. And at that point, I was thinking of an Australian take on the Western, because it's there's a lot of similar parallels of a wild frontier conflict, a nation built on extreme conflict and violence, and it had the epic landscape, the outlaws, the indigenous population, all those kinds of ingredients, and that always fascinated me. I was looking for a writer, really, to write this, because I knew it had to be big. I knew it had to involve be a fictitious kind of epic in the sense of taking in the whole broader canvas of Aboriginal conflict, the conflict with the climate, the bushrangers and the British colonial system.
Johnny and I have had a long-standing relationship, 20 years, maybe more, of working together on various things. I'm a musician and he's done a lot of videos for me. In fact, he's the only, in the hundreds of videos I've done, is the only director who does consistently good videos for me and makes the video experience even vaguely bearable. And Johnny basically came to me and asked me to write, asked me first of all, prematurely as it turned out, to do the music for a film that didn't actually exist, which was to be an Australian Western. And I said I'd be happy to do the music for it. Where's the film? And he didn't have it that far down the line. And a couple of years went by, I think, and eventually Johnny asked me to write the film as well, which seemed to me a kind of a terrifying thing to do, to have to sit down and write a film script, because I didn't feel I had much understanding of dialogue. I knew I could work out a story easy enough. I'm basically a narrative kind of songwriter, and telling stories is what I do. But I thought a film script's really about dialogue, and I would have problems with that. But anyway, I sat down and started to do it, and it felt really good to do it, and I just really enjoyed it, and did it in 3 weeks or something like that. I've never actually been to the outback as such. I grew up in the country in Victoria, but it's not the outback. That's it looks different. And I left Australia when I was 20, and basically the travelling I did pretty much with my band, and that was being kind of dropped into the cities and playing gigs, and that's kind of all I really knew of Australia. So it was really exciting for me to actually go to see this a tiny part of Australia that I actually knew from first-hand experience nothing about.
What fascinated me in reading the script was that the characters are not delineated in as far as there's good and there's bad. They're all the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good.
I think, like any great movies, you have to have a wonderful starting point. In this case, it's the script. Nick Cave is a brilliant storyteller. He's a wonderful musician, but in his songs he's a wonderful storyteller. This is the first movie script that he's written, but it's a terrific story. It's beautifully told, it's lyrical, it's poetic, it's dramatic, and that was certainly the thing that attracted me, as I'm sure it did the other cast members.
The script was like just such a kind of rock and roll read, you know. It was by about page 3 or 4 I was thinking, this is really strange and fantastical, and it's very rare that you come across an original screenplay that has such an epic feel to it.
When I first read this script, I read it about a year ago, and it's kind of the first Australian film set in such a, mixed culture area with, as in the Indigenous people and the white settlers, and it's kind of represented the Indigenous people really amazingly well. Like it's not just like people that are being persecuted or people that are, savages or that sort of thing, which, it either goes, either way in most Australian films. And, like either, we've got this Indigenous problem, so we need to elevate the status of the Indigenous population, or, we need to show that, they're drunks and layabouts and all that sort of thing. And this film kind of represents both problems, and what we did to these people, but also that they're really noble warriors and things, and they weren't just a pushover and all this sort of stuff. So that was the most interesting thing to first read this. And I mean, you try to look for some sort of meaning with a script, and that was like, all right, this is actually saying something that hasn't really been said before, So I guess that's what this script sort of meant to me when I first read it. When I was sort of like Nick Cave, right? When I read the script the first time, it was an ex-girlfriend now. I was at her place, and she had a whole bunch of scripts, and she said, oh, there's this one by Nick Cave. And I go, are you kidding me? No, have a read this. And so I sat there and read the whole thing through in like an hour, and that's pretty rare that you just you read through a whole script and just go, wow, and I'd seen Samuel, and this is like a year and a half ago, I'd seen Samuel there, and I go, God, there's no one else in this country that can play that role like I can play, and so I knew it was mine, sort of thing. And because I'm just obsessed with Nick Cave and have been most of my life, like he seems to be the biggest sort of, I don't know, the biggest amazing storyteller in music from Australia. It's a very taste sort of thing, like I'm really into that dark world that he creates in your mind, but so to do a film of his is just like unbelievable, and all my music friends are so jealous of me.
And the fact that it was a very interesting script is the thing that first attracted me to it, I think. The fact that it was another take on a genre that's been somewhat neglected for some time, and in a completely different place, different understanding of it as well, and actually a kind of renaissance in a sense, a rebirth of it, rather than a continuation of the same old thing, and a different look at it altogether.